A man in a canvas jacket and a tan Stetson walked through the door of a watch repair shop on a Tuesday morning in September 1961, and the bell above the door made the same sound it had made for 11 years. The woman behind the counter did not look up right away. She was used to the bell. She was used to a lot of things by then. The man behind her had a briefcase and a polite voice and a document that said she had 48 hours. The three other customers in the shop had gone quiet. A trucker turning a broken pocket watch over in his hands. A school teacher waiting on a battery. An old man in overalls who had been coming to this counter every Tuesday since 1952. None of them moved. In the back corner of the shop, a large man in a plain work shirt had set down a coffee cup and was watching. Here is the story. Nadine Coulter had run Coulter's Watch Repair on Elm Street in Muskogee, Oklahoma, for 11 years, 2 months, and 9 days. She had taken it over at 33 when her husband Raymond died of a coronary in the back room with a loop still in his eye socket and a Longines movement half apart on the bench in front of him. Raymond had started the shop in 1948 with $200 and a set of tools his father had brought back from Switzerland. The tools were still on the bench. Nadine had not moved them. She had learned the trade in the year after Raymond died because there was no other choice. She had a daughter in 2nd grade and a son who was 5 and a mortgage on the building that Raymond had thought was a good investment and a landlord's notice in her pocket that turned out to be the bank's notice and not a landlord's at all. She stayed up past midnight most nights. She read Raymond's manuals at the kitchen table after the children were asleep. She learned the escapements, the lever, the detent, the cylinder and the mainsprings and the balance wheels and the gear trains and all the language Raymond had spoken without explaining, because he had assumed there would be time. There is a particular kind of quiet that settles into a woman who has decided she is going to keep going no matter what. Customers noticed it in Nadine without being able to name it. You brought her a watch, and she took it seriously. She told you what was wrong and what it would cost, and when it would be ready, and it was always ready when she said it would be. 11 years of that. The same counter, the same loop, the same bell above the door. Her son Tommy was 12 by September 1961. Her daughter Margaret was 16 and had already told Nadine she wanted to study nursing. Raymond's tools were still on the bench. The Longines movement he had been working on the day he died. Nadine had finished it herself, 3 months after the funeral, at 2 in the morning, and mailed it back to its owner without charging for the labor. The mortgage was $4,400 remaining. She had been paying it down for 11 years, and she was 4 months behind because the compressor on the building's furnace had failed in January, and the repair had cost $340 that she did not have. And the bank had absorbed it into the balance as a penalty, and then the balance had a way of not going down the way it should have after that. The man with the briefcase was from First National in Tulsa. He was not from the Muskogee branch. They had sent someone from Tulsa, which meant they were serious. He had a document and a pen and a very reasonable tone of voice, and he explained to Nadine, with the 3 customers and the large man in the work shirt all present, that the bank had exhausted its patience with the matter, and that she had until Thursday at close of business to make the full arrearage current or surrender the deed. He said surrender the deed the way a man says something he has said many times before. Not unkindly, just efficiently. Nadine Coulter set down the watch she was working on. She set it down carefully, the way she always did. She put the tweezers on the bench, and she folded her hands on the counter, and she looked at the man from Tulsa, and she did not say anything. The trucker with the pocket watch stopped turning it over. The school teacher stopped looking at the display case. The old man in overalls stared at the floor. The arrearage was $618. That was the number the man from Tulsa said. He said it plainly. $618 in 4 days, or the deed was the bank's to dispose of as it saw fit. If you've ever watched someone be treated like everything they built could be erased with a folder and a polite voice, drop your state in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. The large man in the work shirt did not stand up quickly. He moved the way men move when they have made a decision and are not in any hurry about it. The chair scraped back across the linoleum. One slow push. He had stopped for coffee. The crew wasn't due in Muskogee until 11, and he had 2 hours before he needed to be anywhere, and he had wanted coffee in a quiet place, not a place with 20 people and noise. He had come through the door, ordered from the diner 2 doors down, and then walked into the watch shop, because he had a Rolex with a fouled crown gear that his regular man in Los Angeles had been putting off for 6 weeks, and the sign in the window said Coulter's and the lights were on. He walked across the shop the way he walked across every set he had ever worked on, like the floor belonged to him, and he wasn't in any particular hurry to prove it. The man from Tulsa heard him coming and turned. He was looking up at John Wayne. The room found out his name the way rooms always did, not from the narrator and not from Wayne. The old man in the overalls said it first, just a word, just the name, almost to himself. Then the schoolteacher. The trucker didn't say it at all. He just put the pocket watch down on the display case and stood up straighter. Wayne looked at the man from Tulsa. He did not say anything for a moment. Then he said 4 words. "What is the number?" The man from Tulsa said $618. Wayne looked at Nadine Coulter. She had not moved. She was watching him with the same expression she had used on the man from Tulsa. Not afraid, not grateful yet, not anything he could name easily. Just a woman who had been standing at this counter for 11 years and knew how to wait. He looked at the full remaining balance. "The whole thing," he said. The man from Tulsa said the full balance was $4,400. Wayne said, "Write the receipt for $4,400. Full discharge of the note. I'll have a cashier's check here before noon." The man from Tulsa said, with the practiced courtesy of a man who has turned down unusual requests, that this was not really how. Wayne looked at him. He did not say anything. He just looked at him. The man from Tulsa wrote the receipt. Wayne walked to the counter. He set it down in front of Nadine Coulter. He said, "I've been carrying a Rolex with a fouled crown gear for 6 weeks. My man in Los Angeles keeps putting it off. If you can look at it, I'd be obliged." He reached into the breast pocket of his jacket and set the watch on the counter. Nadine Coulter looked at the receipt. She read it. She read it again. Her hand moved to pick it up and then stopped. She said, "I can't ever." He said, "I'm not doing you a favor. I have a watch that needs fixing, and you have 11 years on this equipment that my man in Los Angeles doesn't." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she picked up the receipt and folded it once, precisely the way she folded everything. She set it under the counter. She picked up the Rolex. The man from Tulsa left without looking back. The door made its sound. The bell above it rang once. The old man in the overalls sat back down. Nadine Coulter paid off the building in full by October 1961. The deed was hers. She farmed that corner of Elm Street for another 22 years, until 1983, when her son Tommy took over the shop, and she retired to a house 3 streets away, where she could walk to work on the days she still wanted to. She never remarried. She didn't want to. She told her daughter Margaret once. She said she had already built the thing she wanted to build, and she just wanted to keep building it. The watch, Wayne's Rolex with the fouled crown gear, she had ready in 4 days. She called the number he had left. He had someone pick it up. She charged him her standard rate, $12 for a crown gear replacement and cleaning. He paid the invoice without comment. Margaret Coulter graduated from the University of Oklahoma School of Nursing in 1967. She worked labor and delivery for 31 years at St. Francis Hospital in Tulsa. She was in the room for more than 4,000 births. When she retired in 1998, she gave a speech to the nursing staff that ended with something her mother had told her once: that there is a particular kind of quiet that settles into a person who has decided they are going to keep going no matter what. And the job was to be that kind of quiet for the people who couldn't find it themselves. Tommy Coulter ran the shop until 2009. He closed it the year he turned 60, because the arthritis had gotten into both hands, but not before he had trained 3 people in the trade, including a young woman named Rosa, who opened her own repair shop in Broken Arrow in 2003 and still runs it today. Rosa still has one of Raymond Coulter's original Swiss tools on her bench. Tommy gave it to her the day she opened. He said it seemed right that it should keep working. In the back of the shop on Elm Street, in the years after Tommy closed it, the building sat empty for a while. A restaurant tried it for 2 years and then moved on. A tax preparation office tried it after that. But the people in Muskogee who were old enough still called it Coulter's, because that's what the sign had said for 34 years. And names like that take a long time to leave a place. On the wall behind the counter, in a plain oak frame, hung the receipt. Full discharge of note. $4,400. No borrower's signature. No lender. Just the date and the amount and the stamped seal of First National Bank of Tulsa, Oklahoma, September 1961. The afternoon light came through the front window every day and moved across the frame the way it always had. Wayne never mentioned it. Not to the director he was meeting in Muskogee that week. Not to any member of the production crew. Not in any interview in the 42 years he had left. Not in any letter that anyone ever turned up. The man from Tulsa presumably told someone, because these things always get out eventually, but not through Wayne. There is a kind of man who notices the people a room has decided not to see, who sits in the corner, drinking his coffee, watching, who does not need to be summoned, who was already there, for his own reasons, and who saw clearly what was happening, and understood that what was happening was wrong, and that he was in a position to make it right, and who made it right, and then asked for the watch to be looked at. Because some men will not be thanked, and they know how to make sure they aren't. The measure of a man is not what he does when someone is watching. It is what he does when 3 customers and a bank officer and a widow and an old man in overalls are all watching, and not one of them expects him to do anything at all. If this story reached you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. There are more stories like this one, and every one of them deserves to be told. And unfortunately, they don't make men like John Wayne anymore.